Hey everybody, Jackson here. I want to do a bit of a different video today. I wanted to talk about building a Lego collection from scratch and how I would do it as of today. Uh, I think a lot of people are getting back into Lego, a lot of people are just starting out, and I think there's a tendency to want to spend the most money on the most sets or the biggest sets out there. And I like play scale things, I like building little armies, and I think a lot of other people enjoy similar things to that as well. And so I just wanted to challenge myself. What would I do if I had $100 to spend? How could I sort of get the most bang for my buck? How could I get the most builds, the most figures, really start a sort of core collection, and just have a really good groundwork to go off of? And I'm limiting myself to the Clone Wars era for this. I think clone building, army building is a really popular thing a lot of people like to do. I think it's got a lot of good variety for builds, and the droid side of the opposing force has some pretty good support. Uh, so that's what I wanted to go with. I'm basing this all off of Amazon as of today. I think that's the most accessible to everybody. If it's on Amazon, it's probably available in a local Lego store or another store for maybe about the same price. But in my experience from buying Lego, I hunt down a lot of cheap Lego. I look for sales. Amazon pretty consistently has anywhere from 5 to 20% off sets year round. Especially a lot of these smaller sets, they get so many of them in stock that they always discount them down. And so being able to reliably rely on those prices is huge. So I put together 2 or 3 little packages that I'd probably be happy with for about $100. I'm not taking tax into account for these, but for roughly $100, just the sets, you can get these. And I think that's a really attainable goal to a lot of people. I think most people could, set aside $100 for a hobby they want. Whether you save up that for a month or two, even if money's really tight, setting aside a little bit just to build up to this, I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. And even if you're a young kid, birthday money or Christmas money, or doing some chores and getting $5 or $10 for doing some chores, saving up towards $100 can happen quicker than you think. And so I think that's a pretty attainable goal for all people. So I have three sort of Amazon carts I put together that I think I would be pretty happy with if I had just those as a starting point. Obviously, you're not going to cover all your bases with all of these. Obviously, you're not going to get everything you ever want out of a Lego collection. But if you had $100, I think this would really tide you over till you saved up more money to buy your next set, or give you a starting point to figure out what you wanted to build off of. So let's get to it. So my main, sorry, I gotta remember how to do this. All right. So the main cart, my first pick, if I had to put together an Amazon cart, would be this. It comes out, we're right by the skin of our teeth, $99.92. I think the benefit with Amazon is there's free delivery, so you don't need to take that into consideration. So it's just a little tax after that. But I was pretty happy with these 3 sets, and I think you get a lot of value out of these 3. So let's break them down. So I think one of the cornerstones to most of these things I'm putting together here is this set right now. 75372, the Clone Trooper and Battle Droid Battle Pack. It's sort of like 2 battle packs in one, a little bit. But for $23, it is, to me, a great value. Right, like I said, it's 20% off on Amazon right now, but that's been the price I've only ever seen it at on Amazon. So I think they're just going to run this 20% sale forever. But for $23, you're going to get 4 clones. That's 1 shock trooper and 3 normal clone troopers. You're going to get 3 B2 battle droids, 2 B1 battle droids, a tri-droid build, and then for transports, you get a stap speeder for the droid. You're going to get this speeder here and this barricade for the clones. And, I'm not super happy with how these 2 little builds turned out, although I think the barricade's not that bad. But like I've made videos in the past, I've posted on Rebrickable. There's so many things on Rebrickable you can turn these 2 sets into. Like I turned that barricade and that speeder into this slightly more accurate BARC speeder that I think looks a lot better. And so, like, I would do something like this, but it gives you the freedom to mess around and sort of rebuild stuff how you want. But for $23, getting 4 clone troopers, 5 battle droids, a speeder or 2, a barricade, and a big tri-droid build is a huge win for the consumer. So this is a pretty big cornerstone in all of mine. Yeah, so I highly recommend this one as being one of the first ones you do. And for, you know, if you want to round up, about a quarter of our budget, already having essentially a little army you can set up and a little battle you can stage is a big win. So the next thing we do, right, so we're about $25 down, so we got 75 to play with. So currently on shelves right now are these 3 sets. Amazon has them all for 20% off. This isn't 20% off, but it was a little bit ago, so you could wait and see what that price goes to. These 3 sets are all roughly the same price, right? 51 to 59. And I think it's sort of your pick which one of these 3 you want to go with. So we have 75402. It's the ARC 170, and you get a really sweet play scale ARC 170 build. I know there's things about this some people don't like, but in terms of starting out a collection, pretty good ship, pretty iconic ship to have. And in it, you'll get an astromech, and you'll get 3 clone pilots. And so, you know, as something that can come back up your guys in the battle, a pretty sweet ship to be able to snag. The other option is the 75432 V19 Torrent, which is out right now. It's 51. It's the cheapest of the 3, and you don't get as many figures, or as many clones, I should say. It's the same amount of figures as the ARC 170. But you get a clone pilot. You get this V19 build, which is a really cool build if you're a fan of Clone Wars TV show, or the 2003 Clone Wars animated micro series. Pretty prominent in that. And then what the benefit to this set is that you're going to get Obi-Wan in his really cool Clone Wars armor. Might I add, I really love this figure. And then you also get Asajj Ventress. So you're going to get a Jedi and a Sith, essentially, right? So a leader for both sides. And since it's in the Clone Wars era, right, Asajj Ventress is known for leading the Trade Federation battle droids into battle. So as a pretty solid contender, this one at least gives you sort of the hero and the villain figure you can have fighting each other. And I think for the value, that's a really hard thing to pass up. So this is probably my second pick. My number 1 pick out of these 3 is going to be this, the 75342 Republic Fighter Tank. It is the most expensive at $59. Again, I've seen it drop to the $55, $51 with a little 20% sale. But even with the full price, it fits into our little budget we're doing. And in it, you're going to get 3 clone troopers, Mace Windu, and 2 B1 battle droids, as well as this really cool tank build. And what I like about the tank build is it keeps the battle on the ground. So if you're going to buy that other clone trooper battle droid battle pack, this tank is a really good opposing force to that tri-droid build, and it keeps the battle grounded in one area instead of having a ship flying. You know, you can really stage this all out and not need to be hanging a ship from the ceiling or buying a stand or doing something funny with that. And it gives you 2 battle droids to add to the opposing force that the other sets don't give you. The other sets are, aside from Asajj Ventress coming with it, the other sets don't give you any extra enemy figures. And so, you know, this gives you 2 B1s and 3 clone troopers. So as many clone troopers as the ARC 170 plus another Jedi. Because if you're not going to get the if you're not going to get the V19, you're not going to have any sort of Jedi hero figure, which you can just have a straight up clone versus droid battle. That's sick. But this does give you a Mace Windu to rally behind. And I think that's a really cool feature. And then the final set I really want to recommend is this. It's still on sale and on shelves. It's such an iconic battle pack at this point. It's been around for forever. The 75345 501st battle packs. They always have a 501st battle pack that is really carries the weight of the current battle packs for $15. That is a really big steal. 4 501st troopers and this pretty cool cannon build. Again, the cannon build can be a great opposing force to that big tri-droid battle you can set up. I think those pair really nicely, and it gives you a squadron of matching clones. So these 4 can be set up somewhere. Again, you have matching clones for Mace Windu's battalion. You know, you kind of have clones in squads roaming around. And so that's what I really like. Those would be my main three that I would pick. Sorry, I wrote some notes down. Buying those three sets, you can go here and see all three of them. You're going to have 11 clones total, Mace Windu, 4 B1 battle droids, 3 B2 battle droids, so 7 droids total. So 11 clones versus 7 droids. Closer than a lot of army battles and matchups that I've seen, and obviously you're most likely going to want the clones to win that battle, so having them have a little more is cool. You get a Mace Windu, you get a big tri-droid versus the tank and the cannon, and then you also get the speeder build, the barricade, and the stab speeder for the droids to ride on. I think that can set up a very dynamic scene that is hard to pass up. So this is my number one pick. A close second to this as an audible would be if you're going to buy this V19, since it's about $9 cheaper. And, you know, that way you get a Asajj Ventress, which is really cool to get, and an Obi-Wan. So instead of Mace Windu, you'll have this and Obi-Wan. You still get a clone pilot, and you can have this. I would supplement that $10 difference with getting this Captain Rex's Y-Wing Microfighter. You get a sweet Captain Rex. He can lead. You know, you already have 4 501st Troopers, so he's able to sort of be the leader of his own battalion. And while the Microfighter is kind of a whatever build, given if you're trying to set up a battle, although you can absolutely keep it like that, I would like to point out that on Rebrickable for Captain Rex's Microfighter, there's free instructions to make ATRT walkers for him or another trooper or a BARC speeder. A lot of cool alternate builds that you can do for this that would bring it more in scale to what to a battle you'd be looking to do. And so what I would probably do is alternate build it into either this ATRT or a BARC speeder. That way you can have Captain Rex leading the charge in on a big bulky speeder. You could build that other battle pack into sort of a matching BARC speeder like this is, and really give the clones sort of a cool opposing force. So those are the two things I would pivot to. But you have a lot of good variety right now for $100. The second, so that's sort of an honorary mention audible for the first one, right? Is if you want to go V19, definitely add in the Microfighter here for a Rex. The other thing I wanted to do is not include any of those big builds, right? The V19, the ARC 170, and the Republic fighter tank. If you didn't want to get any of those and you just wanted to get more bang for your buck and more sets, this was a way to do it, because, you know, those do take up half or more of the $100 budget. And so this is what I came up with. It totals up to $98. And, you know, it still has some of those core pieces, but you do get a little more. So still in here is that Clone Trooper Battle Droid Battle Pack. Again, it's a huge staple for what you get out of it for $23. And also in here is going to be that 501st Clone Trooper Battle Pack as well. For $15, 4 figs, just adds so much to the clone side of things. I also added the Captain Rex Y-Wing Fighter at $8, getting him, and again, alternate building that into a speeder. Just gives you right here for, you know, a 5 clone squadron with a cannon and a BARC speeder or something. That's a really cool battalion or squad that you can make. The two sets I'm pivoting to get, instead of, like I said, instead of the ARC 170, instead of the V19, instead of the Republic fighter tank, would be you can get both of these. So the BARC Speeder Escape comes with Keller and Beck. Actually, here, I can blow these up. So, see, again, everything is like 20% off on Amazon all the time. So $23. The BARC Speeder Escape, you're going to get Keller and Beck. 2 lightsabers is a really cool thing to have. Again, if you had your own other minifigure you wanted to play around with, you wanted to have a clone pick up a lightsaber and, you know, charge into battle or something, this gives you a double lightsabers you can play around with. You get a little Grogu. You get an actually Lego designed BARC speeder. That's really cool build with the little sidecar, and you could obviously pull that little chair on Grogu out of that and put a clone trooper on that sidecar with a big machine gun or something. And then you get 2 more 501st clone troopers. And so while this scene takes place during Order 66, so the clone troopers are the bad guys in this scene, if you just want to set up a battle between droids, this just adds another 2 clones to Captain Rex's squad that you got going on here. So that brings his total to Captain Rex leading a charge of 6 501st Clone Troopers. So 7 clones in a little 501st army is a pretty special thing. The other set you can add is the Obi-Wan Starfighter 75333. You get Obi-Wan, you get R5, and you get Tanwi as sort of just like an extra character. Tanwi and Grogu might not do much in terms of the army building, but it's cool to have some extra characters. And then you get Obi-Wan Starfighter, which is a really nice build, and it's really cool to have a hero Jedi figure with a hero Jedi ship. And so that gives you 2 Jedi in this build. I guess you could say 3 since Grogu's in it. But 2 Jedi with lightsabers in this build. Tons of clones to add on as just sort of an overwhelming force. Battle droids, different speeder builds, tons of stuff. The only downside for me for this side is that you're stuck. The only droids you get are from this battle droid battle pack. So you're only getting 3 B2s, 2 B1s, and the tri-droid, and then one of the B1s or something you can put on that stat build. But it does turn one set into 2 and gives you 2 Jedi and some extra clones for if you're heavier on the 501st. That's a good way to add a couple extra without just buying a ton of these 501st troopers. So that's my second cart that I would probably be mostly happy with, is setting up some sort of big battle like this. The third honorable mention I could say as a budget set that I would go for building an army would just be buying 4 of these Clone Trooper Battle Droid battle packs. If you didn't worry about having a Jedi figure out the gate, or you really just wanted to set up a really cool clone versus droid battle, for $23 you can get 4 of these for your $100 budget. And that, at scale, adds up to a ton of stuff. Sorry, I wrote this down. But in total, right, you're going to get 4 of these tri-droid builds, which is really cool to set up behind the marching droids up in front. That's a wall of large cannon droids. You will have 12 B2 battle droids. That's a pretty overwhelming force. You will have 8 B1 battle droids, including 4 of these stat speeders. So you can have those, flanking some clones or something. But that is a pretty substantial droid army. And that to me, at scale, if you really wanted to set up a really cool build, you just had some base plates or something you wanted to throw them on, that is at least a substantial amount of characters. And then to oppose that, you get 12 clones. And so, right, you'll get 4 of these red shock troopers that you can put together in sort of a battalion. You could break these clones up into 4 squads with a shock trooper leading each one. You'll get 4 barricades. You'll get 4 of these small speeder builds, or if you want to mess around and build your own version with that, you can make a different speeder build that just holds 1, or combine them all, or you can go crazy with this. You can build 2 of these big BARC speeders and turn all the rest into some homemade barricades. But you get 12 clones that really can oppose this larger droid battle, because it does outnumber the clones with droids. So to me, that can be cool, sort of have the clones hunkered down somewhere. That's sort of an honorable mention if you just really wanted to send it with maximizing your clone and droid army out the gate. Yeah, so those are my 3 things that I was able to come up with for $100. I'm pretty happy with all those. Again, this is my preferential pick out the gate, but I think any of those 3 gets you a lot of bang for your buck and really gets you started on being able to offer a lot of cool stuff. And really, if I did this set here, my next purchase after I bought these 3 would be this V19. For $50, getting an Asajj Ventress is really cool. You get, it's hard to get these Separatist leaders. A Grievous minifigure is really hard to get. A Count Dooku figure is really hard to get. They aren't in sets right now, and they're really expensive. And so, like, tactical droids aren't out in sets right now. They're really expensive. So getting an Asajj Ventress is really cool, and just getting an extra ship. That would be my next purchase I would make after making this $100 one, is to get this, just to sort of beef up some stuff and really start fleshing it out. But yeah, I think this is great value for your money. $100, really good shelf presence, really good setup for setting up a battle, and any of those three I'd be pretty happy with. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'd love to know what your opinions are, what your thoughts are on that. If there's any sets that you have that are like make or break deals, like I have to have Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's my favorite Jedi, so I need to find a way to make some of that work without it. Or you really love Captain Rex as the Y-Wings, so you want to make sure that's in there, and that can structure some of your other purchases you're going to make. But I'd love to hear some deal breaker sets you have in there, or what your goal was when first starting out. And yeah, let me know, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.